Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be watching this live or watching this as a recording. My name is Trevor Doornbos. I work for Aprika Business Solutions, and I'll be your guide for today through our mission control solution overview. 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how many questions we do get. And I'll be taking you through, if you like, the trailer for the movie of Mission Control. So not a full-blown solution demonstration, but some of the highlights. There is a chat window, there's a Q&A window. Please feel free to post questions in there, and I'll be gazing off to the left if you're watching me on video. And what we'll be going through today is why Mission Control? We go through some of the typical challenges we address for our clients, a bit of background on Mission Control, and then we'll go through a bit of a highlight solution walkthrough. I've been with Aprika for 2 years. My background is probably 10 to 15 years in professional services across various roles, engagement manager, consultant, you have it, and what have it. And I've probably experienced a lot of the challenges that most clients I speak with are facing today or may be facing. So first off, why Mission Control? Well, one of the key reasons I'd say why is we're native to Salesforce. So if you're using Salesforce or you're looking at Salesforce as an option for your customer resource management and platform, then you're in the right place. It's a bit of a big claim, but Mission Control, everything I am going to show you today works out of the box. What does that mean? That means when you download Mission Control from Salesforce App Exchange down into your Salesforce org, after the whole 20 or 30 minutes that takes from clicking Get Now to set it up in your org, means all the capability, all the application is available to you. So you're not having to build out the application and components. What you will be doing is setting up your people, your projects, allocating people to teams, skill sets, all those sorts of things. How do you actually figure out how to do that? Well, we've got an extensive knowledge base, training videos, learning portal, user guides online. Plus we have live chat if you go to our support site. If you want more information, at the bottom link there, www.aprika.com/MC, or you can find us on Salesforce App Exchange. If you'd like to know more about the Business and Economic Impact Report, those figures below, they seem kind of unbelievable. We thought so at first, and it's what an independent consulting company has gone out and spoken to many of our customers and find out, well, what are the benefits you're getting from Mission Control? So happy to share that for anyone who's interested. And what are the typical challenges that we address for our clients and they're facing today? And either using multiple tools, typically to do things, and been trying to figure out, do we have the people to deliver? That's probably putting it really simplistically. You know, what work do we have on the go? Can we actually start new projects? Do we have the bandwidth, the capacity? And which resources are overworked? If we're hitting a bottleneck in certain areas, is it because one person's been used for half a dozen different projects? And what about forecasts? If we actually win new business, what's the impact of that going to be? Utilization, that's always a big one. Not just have they worked their allocated hours a week, how many billable hours are they supposed to work? And are they overutilized, underutilized? Are they sitting on the bench a lot, or are they about to burn out because we're hitting them at 150% capacity? And being able to get all that information at your fingertips, and I'll be taking you through that. And that whole thing about efficiency or effectiveness is, how are we tracking? How are we delivering the work? How are our projects looking? Who needs help? Being able to identify that pretty quickly. And that important question is, how is our profitability? And ideally not waiting until the end of the month till the accounts team, finance team tell us how we're doing, but be able to track that real time in a central source of truth. What do our customers say? I know there's actually a couple of customers and partners on the call. Welcome, a couple of prospects as well. Thank you for joining. G2 or G2 Crowd, as it used to be known, it's an independent software comparison site. So we listed on there beginning of 2021, asked a lot of our customers to go and just give us reviews on that site. And the results have been quite astounding. Not just the fact that they're singing the praises of Mission Control, but the Net Promoter Score, kind of unbelievable, we thought. When the average NPS or Net Promoter Score for a SaaS company usually sits between 50 to 60. Now, If you don't understand NPS, it's where you get a number of people say you're really great, a couple of people say you're not very good, and the people who are undecided, that measures out into a score. So coming back with an 83 kind of blew us out the water, and we had to go and do a double and triple check on that. And also getting feedback from a lot of our customers on how long does it take to implement mission control? And that's certainly something I'm happy to delve in if anyone has those questions at the end of the session. Where does mission control sit? Who uses PSA, professional services automation? I don't like to say project management because mission control is a full PSA solution. It does more than just that. And you might think, yes, it's going to be in professional services organizations, software companies such as ours who have to deliver implementations and that side of things, but there's all sorts of other aspects as well. We've got clients across all these industries and using us pretty similarly in many cases, sometimes differently, but being able to manage their people, their projects, and tracking the financial aspects of that. If we take a snapshot of, let's call it the top 49, because I think that's how many logos we've got up there, it breaks those down across many of those industries and just gives you an idea of the different types of company, both some at the very small end of town, what I think Salesforce likes to call emerging small business, up into big enterprise, Fortune 100 type companies. There's, I believe from last count, about 7 Australian, New Zealand logos on there. And some of my favorite customers obviously are local. If you didn't know, if you hadn't caught it, I'm actually a Kiwi. I've only been living in Australia 30 years. And one of my favorite customers is about 10 minutes from where I grew up, and their brands in Wellington in New Zealand. They've been using mission control for about, let's say since 2019. So what's that, coming to 5 years? They told a user group in Wellington in 2019 about all the solutions they were using and said, well, what are the benefits you're getting? And I said, well, we've managed to free up 4 business days per project manager per month. So if you think about that, they had 50 project managers at the time. And I think the return on investment there is kind of huge. Last year, 2021, they did an internal research, I think it's what you would call it, and they came back and told us we've found we get a 30% increase in efficiency simply by allowing everyone to have access to mission control. What used to be pre-mission control, 1 to 2 hour weekly meetings for resourcing, project management, is that 20 to 30 minutes because everyone's got the information they need. They just want to do the tweaking, the finessing, if you like. And then if you look up, we're global, Cardinal Health, Fortune 100 customer in the health vertical in the US. And again, being able to get different aspects of it, looking at the resourcing, being able to have a look at what's going well with projects. So a lot of great values clients are getting. If you didn't see the post, happy birthday, Mission Control, 10 years on Salesforce App Exchange on July 31st. And it's come a long, long way since then. So from 2012, when essentially you could enter timesheets and track a few things, to now when it's a full-fledged professional services automation solution, from a revenue and I guess team growth, probably I think it's 50% year on year in the last year, 40% the previous 2 years. Majority of our teams actually in North America. So our CEO, marketing director, myself, learning manager, support based here in Australia. And then our CTO, one of my counterparts, the larger side of the implementation customer success team, and our internal development team, they're all based in North America. So we cover the globe. We've got customers absolutely everywhere. At last count, we had 11,000 active mission control users. So, and that ranges from, as I said, emerging small business with a handful of users through to hundreds of users. So because it's on Salesforce, it's eminently scalable. What is in a PSA solution, or what should be in a PSA solution? Let me just have a quick sip of coffee. If I wasn't speaking fast enough, I certainly will now. This is what I like to call our feature wall, and it really outlines, I guess, in the various areas, what mission control provides you. So from a resource management perspective, being able to capture the costs of your people, your equipment, your resources, what you're charging them out at, being able to group those into teams, into areas, by capability, by geography, build out a skills matrix and assign those to people, and being able to actually then use all that information to actually get the right person with the right capacity to deliver on a project, engagement, matter, job, whatever you want to call it. We also have full-fledged holiday management built into Mission Control now. So being able to actually accrue all your annual leave, sick leave, charity, volunteers leave, what have you, and do those requests and approvals within Mission Control. So not having to go out into other systems so much. Project management. So how do you kick off a project? There's multiple ways you can do it, and we make that kind of flexible for you. So one of the simplest methods is to automatically create a project from an opportunity using a template. I'll show you a short example of that. You can also use, Salesforce products as a way to actually generate projects from a template. You can create a project from a Salesforce case if you want. So there's a number of standard, even custom objects that you can use to actually kick off a project. Once you've got your projects or your templates, it's very easy to copy, clone those, even down to, I want to borrow various milestones from various projects. So you can talk to that if needed. How do you manage your projects? Everyone has their favorite way of doing it. Some people love living in a Gantt chart. Some people prefer the Kanban. Some people just want a bit of a list view. The flexibility of Mission Control as compared to our competitors is you get to choose. You don't have to lock it down to one or two ways. We give you everything open. So part of that, everything in the application is there, is you choose what you want people to see or not see. And we supply, I think it's about a dozen Salesforce permission sets with Mission Control to help you control, or your systems integrator control, who gets to see what, who gets to do what. And then how do you want to manage your project? So I come from a delivery background. So most of my projects I'm used to is waterfall, milestone one, dependencies, critical paths, baseline tracking, all the things you might have done in MS project in the past, and been able to look at those in different ways and capture any risks and issues, and been able to look back over projects and see what went well, what have we learned, what can we do better next time. We'll cover some of those. And please, if I don't cover them, pop up in the chat. I love to be reminded. It sort of keeps me on track in some ways. And time tracking, where's a project or a job or engagement or a matter without tracking the time allocated against that. And that's all important, because if you want to track estimated versus actuals, that's the key way to do it. You've estimated 100 hours, how much time has been logged against it as we work on it, as the work in progress, and when we complete it. So being able to track that real time at the end of each period. And having built-in approvals. If you want to have approvals from the project manager, your reporting or line manager, have that built into the product. If you want to have more comprehensive approvals, hey, guess what? It's built on Salesforce. Leverage Salesforce capability and add in things such as Salesforce approvals. Project financials. Now, some of you are probably looking down in the weeds and go, look, I really need to track my costs, my revenue, what's my margins looking like, and being able to attribute any expenses, maybe put uplifts on expenses that you're tracking for projects, and even being able to invoice out of the project. So I'll cover off a few areas where we can do that. Oh, and things such as multi-currency, multi-region. We've got customers certainly who operate in all sorts of parts of the world, multiple parts of the world. So invoicing to your customer in their currency and actually doing that proper support. Program management, we're not going to so much consider today. That's for software companies like ourselves. Our development team, our CTO lives in the program management side of things. That's what they use to actually build out the requirements, the user stories, the sprint cycles, to actually go through and build out each of the 3 releases a year of Mission Control. And collaboration, of course. So leveraging the platform, leveraging Chatter at all aspects of project level, account, what have you, and being able to get information out to your project stakeholders, either internally or the clients, as well as a URL link if you want to send them a page. And I'll cover off some of those productivity tools. Okay, that's a lot of me talking, not too much more before we actually get into product. So what do you care about? So if you're sitting on the call and you can picture yourself on one of these bubbles up here, maybe you're the services manager or IT manager, you're an individual project manager, maybe an end consultant trying to get an idea of how things work. Maybe you're in the larger company, you're a resource manager, or maybe you've got multiple of those roles. And even if you're the customer, and we're going to cover sort of aspects of what they care about. Now, if I look at someone like Colleen, who's a PS manager, it's all going to be about at the holistic level of how we're looking for being on track, for being on margin, and having the ability to deliver. And then how are my key projects I care about looking at? Do I have things highlighted? One of the key things we heard back from brands in New Zealand when I went and visited them last year was the great thing they found with Mission Control is they moved from all the information was on Excel and people's desktops. By centralizing everything in Mission Control and having all that visible, you could very quickly see where there was slippage on a project or a challenge. And rather than being able to point the finger at people, it was more people say, hey, I can see you've got a problem with your project. It looks like it's slipping. I've got a couple of resources coming off a project. Can I get them on your project to help out? So increasing that collaboration, not just in the platform, but with the teams within your business. And we look at the individual project managers. So someone like Chris, he's looking at his individual project performance, also the resources on his project, and he wants to manage the timesheets and the billing aspect of that. And if you're a larger company, or maybe you're one of those previous roles who also does this, what does Mitch care about? It's managing that capacity, managing utilization. It's making sure he's got the right work allocated in the right areas, and he's not burning people out or having too many people sitting on the bench for long periods of time. And it's making sure the right skills are assigned to the right people. And at the end of the day, someone like Andrea, who might be an end consultant, is just knowing what's coming up on her plate, tracking her utilization, maybe talking to her manager about that, and just getting everything entered in the system. And if you're the customer, you just want to know what's happening about your project. Where's it up to? Why do I have to keep calling in? I'm a massive fan of over communication because I feel it really helps establish a rapport with the customer, even when you've got bad news. As long as you're collaborating and reporting on that regularly, it's hopefully going to help the situation. So let's go dive into the product. So we've got about 20, 30 minutes. And what I'm going to do, I've got a number of tabs open on my screen. Please let me know if you can't see my screen. It does say I'm screen sharing, but every now and then things can glitch. And I'll just go and find my mouse again. There we go. Sorry, this is a joy I have with my presentations. Okay. So, okay, we're back. So what I have here is I'm logged into Salesforce and Mission Control. I've got a number of tabs open at the top, which I'm going to walk through just to take you through a bit of an overview of the platform, if you like. If you're familiar or not familiar with Salesforce, we're an app within Salesforce. So if you've got Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud, other aspects of Salesforce, I've gone into the Mission Control app and I've configured this to show what I care about as an individual. So eminently configurable, much as every Salesforce screen is. I've included opportunities. I could have accounts, contacts, leads, and all that information from Sales Cloud if I wanted, but depending on my level of access and what I need to access to work, we can configure that how we like. Now I'm starting in the Mission Control console. So quite often when people are starting off a Mission Control, they find the console a really useful place to start because it's a collection of wizards of the most repeatable things you're probably going to be doing within Mission Control. So in the launch pad, I can create a new project, copy a template, create my teams, my people in my teams, assign them skills, assign holidays in the system, when are the public holidays, and work on things in the finance side, such as the tax rates and that side of things. More from measuring how things are going, I'll be taking you through the Kanban view, the whiteboard, timesheet. We'll look at the issue and the risk log, and if someone wants to, we can look at the action pad and other areas. We're not going to cover everything today. And then if we deep dive into the management pad, it's getting down into some of the key aspects of Mission Control. Okay, so where would someone like a professional services manager like to start their day? Probably sitting at their kitchen table with an iPad or an iPhone, or perhaps they're going to be just logging into their system as I have here and going in and having a look at their key dashboards. So I've got a couple here. We shoot with dashboards and reports. We have a number of Salesforce reports based on the Mission Control objects, which you can build out, you can configure as you would any Salesforce report. So obviously, if you want to create more complex reports, get expert at building Salesforce reports. I've just put some examples up here. For example, key metrics that we track out of the box is how my project's performing to budget. I've typical things like September's not looking great. That's my demo org, so I've had a bit of a play with that this week. And some of my key projects, what's my core revenue? I'll be introducing you to cost performance index and schedule performance index. There's some project management office metrics we build into the system, where one means you're right on track. Whether it's for schedule or for cost, one means you're right on the money. As soon as you start falling below one from a cost performance, it means you're losing margin. It's costing you more than you anticipated. From a schedule performance, it means you're running behind. Being above one, that's great. One or above is fantastic. And then tracking utilization, any sort of metric you really want to cover. The metrics are captured in mission control, and how you report on it, whether it's in the core mission control screens or within reports or dashboards like this, it's all there for you. We've even got clients using BI tools to extract this data and put it into different graphs and charts. Maybe resourcing, that side of things is like how much, what have I got left planned for this month from a dollar perspective or from an hours perspective, or any way you want to slice and dice it. So the key message here is any metrics you care about, you can essentially capture those, report on those. So one of the new features we brought in our February release, and I know a lot of clients have been asking for this for some time, is what about our resources? What about planning for the future? What about being able to track our current work versus forecast? So we introduced the resource planner. So February was almost like a double release, because resource planner was like a release in itself. And if we look here, actions are what we call tasks and mission control. From here, you can say, show me across the team I've filtered to, which is the Australia team, all the actions, all the current work, and across my team, and have I hit capacity? And it looks from here, I've got a lot of white space, so I should be pretty worried. It means I am not delivering to the capacity of my team. I can see across on the right, none of my team are at 100%, and a lot of my team are very low in capacity. So either it's a great month for training, or I should be encouraging people to take some annual leave, or there's other things we need to look at. Now, if I look at that and include in forecasts, that looks a little bit better. Or maybe not, let's put both in, sorry. That's the deft action of the cursor. And so I can see, okay, blue is my actions, orange is any holidays, leave I've got, and then forecast. So still not great, but I can see how that's looking. Now, if I want to get more detailed, I can go into the planner and see the same team. And let's look at Andrea, for example, and we can see over the next few weeks, several weeks, she's at 87% based on her capacity. We can see what she's working on each week, how much of that is billable, which looks like all of it apart from these 8 hours for, she's got a day off that week, and then each individual project. And even for those projects, is that time billable or non-billable? Thankfully, it's all billable. If you work in the legal profession, the word non-billable probably doesn't exist for you. So that's one aspect. There's many other things you can do with Resource Planner. You can build forecasts into the opportunity stage. You can put them in the project stage. There's a lot of great things you can actually incorporate into that. I'm happy to deep dive into that. So if we look at the capacity, what does that mean retrospectively from utilization? So we're looking at Andrea. So let's go and have a look at Andrea's utilization for last month. So if we look at a weekly view for Andrea's utilization, another sip of coffee, I can see her billable, non-billable, any excluded time. No, she didn't have any excluded. That could be training, things like that, and any holiday. Now, we've got the hours per week she's supposed to be working, excuse me, and then how many she's logged for each week, and also her billable target is down the bottom. So we've said of her available capacity, she should be at 80%. So of 40, 32, and depending on capacity, we'll see how that performs. So you can see the utilization, which is her hours, what she worked, and then her billable performance. So she's actually come out okay for the month, even though she fell a bit under in week 2. And you can report on this by team, roll it up by region, any way you need to, extract that out as a CSV file. Excuse me. So what about kicking off a project? So maybe you're doing that handover from sales through your project manager, engagement manager, giving it to the people who are going to be delivering it. I know in my world, a lot of the challenges I face with many teams is getting them not to throw the the SOW over the wall and say, yep, go and deliver. It's been able to build that in and have that all integrated. So from this very simple Salesforce opportunity layout, we've included the 4 fields for mission control to create a project from a template with a start date, and we generated that already. So we closed one the deal last week, supposed to start today, and we created that project. And we can do that just by clicking the box here, add some automation to actually do that at any stage of the opportunity cycle. So you might have projects sitting there in forecast stage. You might say, look, okay, once they're won, they're active. So we've taken our template for implementation, we've created this project, and let's jump in and have a look at what a project looks like. Now, this is a demo org, and I've got absolutely everything switched on. No custom work in here, except I've taken a few items off the related list and just put them in tabs up here. Other than that, everything here is out of the box. Now, my personal preference when I come into a project, I've set that so I come into the insights. And what does that give me? It gives me, what's the project budget? What are we going to charge the client? What's our billable value? So based on the hours and the charge rates, what does this look like? So kind of handy when you're doing time and materials, but also for fixed fees. Like if we're doing this time and materials, how does it look? So we've added a bit of a margin in there. And then we can see our actual costs come down to show that this is what our margin, this is what our profit should be based on starting the project. We can see our hours allocated, billable, non-billable. There's no invoicing that's actually been happening. Now, if you're really focused on figures, I'm going to jump really quickly. I'm going to go into the project detail. This page layout's got pretty much everything switched on. So let me just shut down a few things. What's super important, or maybe super important to you, is the amount of detail you can capture if you care about. So I'm just going to go and have a look at the financial information, and it's saying by the hours scheduled, based on the billable value, this is what we would be charging. And based on the 22,000 minus the cost, this is what our profit and loss is. So if these hours vary, this is where we start tracking that cost performance, and as well as the schedule performance. And then within project performance, we also have these built-in metrics to say, look, how is actuals, forecast, and schedule performance? We're actually looking pretty good. And as things happen, as you log more hours, expenses, you can track all that information through the project. So let me jump into the work breakdown structure, what we call the overview. So in the overview, I've got my milestones, my actions, my checklists. So if you think phases, tasks, subtasks, I've got my milestone requirements, my action requirements meeting, and I've got 3 checklist items that need to be actioned. Now this got allocated to, I'm the owner of the milestone. Got Andrea here who's been allocated. Andrea just called in sick this morning. So let's pretend it's still this morning. I know it's 1 o'clock here in Sydney, or 1:30 almost. And I need to find another resource. So I could have done this when I was resourcing the project. I can see, look, I've got Andrea here. She's available for 8 hours. I really need to find someone else on the consultants team who's good with configuration and check on availability. So, okay, look, Colin, I know he's usually pretty busy. Looks like I've got availability. Look, I'm managing this project. And I've got, you can see I've got holiday reminding myself on Friday. I'm just going to reassign myself to this and hit save. So that's how hard it is to find the right resource. You could go into the scheduler, which I'll show you as well in a while, but it's very simple to find the right resource based on their capability and their capacity. So whether in various teams, different skill sets, and then go through and start working on that. Now, we could go through and log time on this and various things, and then when this milestone completes, we can generate an invoice. We can generate that invoice out to the client. I think time allowing today, we probably don't have the time for that. There's a lot of other tabs I won't cover off just in this project, but if we have a look at the Gantt chart. So every good project management or PSA solution should have a Gantt chart, and this Gantt chart populates automatically. So in the template, as we built out that work breakdown structure, and there's our project, our milestone, our action, our checklist items, we then came in and built out our dependencies. We can either do that by typing it in, by drag and dropping. We can reschedule things. Maybe we realize this is actually going to have to start on Tuesday, so we'll push that out a little. So you can manage that and do things within the product very quickly. Now, If I wanted to do things such as log time, there's so many ways you can log time in mission control because we want things to be flexible. So let's say, for example, I was in the requirements meeting and I'm working in the Gantt chart because that's where I like to work. So, well, I would like to log time. Yeah, look, I was doing a design. Yeah, let's say I did 8 hours and yeah, look, I completed that and I can log the time. These other fields, if you don't need those, we can hide those. You can use the stop timer. I'm simply going to log that time and mark it as complete. Now, without going through the whole process, but what I can talk to very quickly here is what I said I might not, is what happened when that completed. Well, what happened is that action completed, auto completed the milestone, and it generated a billing event, which you could then, through integration, or you could create an invoice from here, send it to your client, integrate it into your finance system, send the client and bring the information back. And then once that's actually issued, then yeah, you're good to go. Now this is in draft status, so we just change that to issued. And you could have automations built in to do that, but this is going to actually show you this on the screen here. It'll also show you on that insights. There's a lot more we could cover there. I'll come back to that soon. If there's any questions, happy to deep dive onto that. When I assign that piece of work to me, I mean, I know what I'm doing, I'm assigning work to myself, but what if I assign that to someone else? How do they know what they've got on their plate? Well, you could have them get one of these, that's a very old example of an action notification. So every time someone's added, maybe they get an email saying you've been allocated to this action with all the detail, any contributors, any notes on the action. And you can also send out a daily digest. So even before you log into your system, you might get an email each morning and say, this is what you've got on for today. This is what you've got on for the week. This is all the new actions, anything pending you're waiting on, anything that's actually overdue, quite a lot here. If you're a manager, any approvals for time logs or expenses you need to work through. So being able to get that information out and have a good visibility. For people like, I think, Andrea, who's a consultant, how do they like working? Well, we hear a lot of people like working in a Kanban view. So I've got a view here of our whiteboard. And imagine this is like old school when you used to put post-it notes on the whiteboard and you'd move things around. I know I did a lot of requirements meetings in the consulting world where that's exactly how we manage things. And sorry, quick question. Are there any integrations included or available to finance systems? So one of the credos we have with Aprica and Mission Control is if Salesforce had built it, or if another independent software vendor, an ISV, has built it, we'd prefer to leverage that. So for example, we use an integration app from Salesforce App Exchange to do all our integrations from Mission Control into Xero, and there's a number of those available. Even systems integrators, they might use an app such as Zapier to configure specific integrations, but there's certainly a number of applications to do that. Thank you, good question. So I'm looking at the whiteboard. I've got it filtered to see everything that Andrea's either an owner of or assigned to. The column heading, this is a pick list from the action object, the action field. So it could be our standard ones or anything you add in when you configure. And Andrea can see what she's working on. We can see there's that requirements meeting. I hadn't refreshed the screen from before. And yeah, you can work through. This is what she's working on at the moment. So you can see, okay, she's done, it looks like too many hours, 170 hours of 125. That's a bit of a worry. It looks like it's actually completed, but it hasn't been marked into in progress. But so Andrea could actually go and chatter. So there's that integration on the platform at the action milestone, or maybe at the top project level. At mention to people, obviously being Salesforce, you can track everything that's happening within the system. Any checklist items you might need to mark off. You can raise issues, log time from here, another one of those places. See any more detail. And we've got this color coded by the different projects. And then if you want to filter that, maybe Andrea, let's see how busy Andrea really is and say, let's have a look at anything that's starting this week. And it's always dangerous to do things like that in a demo. Not a lot on her plate in reality. She's only got one thing coming up for, it looks like 1 hour, but a lot of flexibility to work through that. Another question we always get is timesheet, of course. I think I've showed you a couple of places I can do that. Actually, let me go back a screen because one thing I didn't show you from my demo project is there's a persistent menu at the bottom. Now, if you can't see that, let me just bring that up a bit. You can choose what shows in here. I'm within this project, so if I click log time, it's going to give me that time log modal. It's going to pre-populate the project, and I just need to select what action I'm assigning it to, and I can do those other things. Similarly, I can log expenses, other items here. There's also a trackpad at the right-hand side, you may have noticed. So if I let me just resize my screen, and the trackpad gives you the ability to actually go and log time, expenses, and other items as well. So giving you the flexibility to do things as you need. Standalone timesheet. This is how I typically would log time. I'm looking here at Andrea's time, which she's got on for the week. Some pre-populated time. You can see there's that requirements. Again, I hadn't refreshed the screen. So this is what she should have had here. If I click go, it'll get rid of that. And you can choose what columns you show up to people's capacity. So log the time. Say, for example, let's go. Let's just pick an hour here. So, and then we double click and we get that timesheet modal. We can populate the information, log the time as we need to, and then have a reminder go out every Friday. Don't forget to send in your timesheet, and then report on people who haven't completed their timesheets. That's also a big question we get asked. And that also comes with approvals. So for example, if you're the project manager and the line manager for an individual, you can get the approvals to approve their time at both levels. Okay, very cognizant of time, probably taking longer than I would have expected. Taking off hats, switching hats again. If we look at things, say, as the resource manager. So the resource scheduler, that's a really powerful place to figure out, okay, again, we had the resource planner. How's that capacity looking? But what if I want to manage that capacity? So I've filtered to a specific team. I've included my placeholder roles. I can see I've got this. Let me just hit refresh in case that needs refreshing. And I can see my individuals. I can see I've got annual leave, personal time off. Vicky's got some time off. I can see my placeholder roles. There's the pieces for my implementation project we just kicked off. And I just want to see who's the best person available. So first of all, I might look at the heat map, see what is people's availability. Okay, well, let's focus on Carrie. She's not quite at her capacity. No one else is near capacity, really. What I'd like to do is get these two pieces of work allocated, these two actions. I'm going to give them to Carrie. Now, one of the things you saw before, I did it from the project, but the resource manager might be the one who's actually doing that instead. So I say, okay, I'm going to give these two pieces of work to Carrie. If I do that, what's the impact on her time? Okay, that's not so great. So maybe we'll spread that out a bit, and we'll try that with someone else. So you can drag, reallocate, all sorts of filters available at the top right here if you want to focus like skill sets, availability, all those sorts of things. And I find that heat map can be really powerful. Before we had the resource planner, of course, to go, well, how are we looking from actual work in the weeks and months ahead? So you could actually look for the whole year if you've got a lot of repeating business and what's actually coming up. Okay, in the last 5 or 10 minutes, going to do a quick deep dive into one we did before. So if I have a look at this project, my Ace Labs Roadshow, I'm going to dive into the insights. Now, a couple of things I can see. My cost performance, not looking great. It's fallen below 1. I've got little red, amber, green settings that highlights that to me quickly. I can see this in report, in a dashboard. But my schedule's looking pretty on track, so that's not bad. I can see my project budget, my billable value, the hours, my P&L, and also all the invoicing that's happened. So at a high level, I get a very good visibility of what's happening on the project. So cost is not good. I might have a quick look at the work breakdown structure. And at the milestone level, I can see the roll up of the estimates versus actuals. And go, well, that's not too bad. But yeah, okay, I see I had a bit of a problem. I did 4 estimate, 4 actuals, 135 estimate, 160 actual, sorry, 135 actuals, 160, and then in the client approval, we actually fell behind a bit. So I think that's probably had an impact on our cost. A lot of other areas, you might be tracking risks with our project. So from a risk management perspective, you can build out a risk matrix quite easily, simply by creating risks, categorizing them, giving them ratings, probabilities. Is it going to happen soon or in the future? And it coalesces into a risk score. So you can check it on the risk matrix, categorize it. And for example, we might have something such as approvals. What's going to happen if this, well, this is it from last year. That's a bit of a risk in itself. What do we do if there's eventuates? And we might have things such as a countermeasure say, well, if the approver isn't there, have the client allocate alternate approvers. And then we could actually take that in chatter, go and comment on that, bring other people in, or promote that to an issue. So being able to share that information out with the client, that's also pretty important. The issue log as well. You might say risks are what we keep internal, issues are when we're communicating with the client, or a balance of both. You get to choose. And then, yeah, what are the issues we're facing within the project and how do we report on that? We talked to the Gantt chart, and I'll just talk quickly to retrospective. So being able to go back after a project completes, or being able to go at the end of a milestone, even completion of some of your larger projects, on what worked well, what didn't work well. And the retrospective board gives the ability to add a retrospective, categorize it so that when you're creating new projects, you can look at, okay, requirements. What are the things we've learned about requirements for these sorts of projects? Let's do a better job next time. So being able to work with that within the team, report on it, and improve on a continuing basis. Okay, to close out, and I know I've covered a lot, I know I've jumped around a lot, and again, I say this is a bit of a trailer for the deep dive of mission control. Being able to share that information out to your clients, and what can you share to the project stakeholders? So we've got a status report. You can automate that or run this ad hoc as I have just earlier. Maybe you don't have JAS and mission control image on your report, have that go out to your client. You might just send them a project summary, maybe add a notes field on the weekly status for the report, to give that update to the client so they know exactly where they're up to, or whatever level of detail you'd like to add in. Do you want to include the work breakdown structure? Maybe only allow them to see the milestones or everything. My personal view is the more information you can share, the better. And maybe even share out a snapshot of the Gantt chart, so you don't have to go and cut and paste from one tool and put it into, I think the typical example is put it into PowerPoint slides and share it with the client. And risks and issues, anything you want to share. There's even an online status report version where you can share a real-time view. It's just a URL link for each project that you share, and it gives access to the client, all the stakeholders. So maybe you want to give this access to your sales team without having, giving them full-fledged access to mission control. So quite often a bit of a workaround where they get read-only access into that full Gantt chart view. Okay, any questions that people have would like to come up with, I'm happy to answer. Certainly, I know I've jumped around and covered a lot there. There's a lot of great information out on the Salesforce App Exchange, also on the Mission Control website, and happy to follow up. But everyone who's on the call and who registered will get a copy of the recording. So you can go back, and if you're listening to the recording, you weren't live, welcome. And thanks for listening through to the end. Licensing, so all our licensing is now in US dollars. Two options, you can pay by subscription monthly on credit card, and that's at $39 per user per month. And if you want to do that on an annual upfront, either credit card or by invoice wire transfer, that's $36 per month. And excuse me, happy to go through and help with any questions around that. Oh, and yeah, to the other question, if you go to Salesforce App Exchange, there is a live test drive account. So if you don't have a Salesforce org that you can actually download to do a trial, you can actually just do a test drive. And it's an online live mission control account where you can walk through about 80–90% of the functionality that's in the system. And we have a lot of people do that, create projects, do all sorts of things within that test drive. Thank you, everyone, so much for your time. Really appreciate you taking the time to have a look at Mission Control. Again, my name's Trevor Doornbos. If you do have any questions, please feel free to contact me. excuse me, that's my email address there, trevor.doornbos@aprika.com.au. You can just go to our website as well, aprika.com.au/MC, and contact us, speak to one of our people on live chat, or any way you feel fit. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to speak to some or all of you in the near future. Take care.